Hello, hello, everyone. As you log in and connect to audio, please do me a huge favor. Make sure your microphones and your cameras are off. That's going to help us in our event a little later on. If you are not sure how to turn your camera off, do not worry. I can help you from my end as well. Let's see, I've got one I'm helping. Here we go. We're going to stay for a couple more seconds before I just jump into our housekeeping and introductions so we can get this event going right away. While you make yourselves comfortable, make sure you grab a beverage of your choice, ingredients if you bought them from the grocery list on the website so you can cook along. If you didn't, that's okay because I'm sure the food's gonna look delicious and you're gonna learn a lot even if you're not doing it with them right now. All right, we've got people in. Thank you all for helping by turning your camera and microphones off. I will make sure to tell you why that's helpful in just a moment. But first, if you've not been to one of our virtual events, hi, I'm Cassie. I'm the Brazos virtual events guru. If you have been to one of our virtual events in the past 16 months, you've seen my face, you know what's about to happen. Go get another beverage of your choice if you want to miss the typical spiel. If you want to hear it again because you like my voice or you don't know what's going on, stick around. So we are Houston's oldest independent bookstore, and we are so thankful and excited to continue to be up and running throughout this very weird time. So thank you to everyone who's written books, who's published books, who has bought books, and who has provided word of mouth to help us stay in business. We are forever grateful. There are lots of ways you can support Brazos Bookstore besides attending our events. You can always go to brazosbookstore.com to order your books. We ship both nationally and internationally, so it's really easy to get what you need. We're always happy to work with you. If you are local, we have two other ways. We have curbside pickup. If you are not comfortable coming into the store at this time, we understand. Call or purchase online. We'll get your curbside pickup set up to go. Now, this next announcement is really fun because our hours have been updated. So I'm going to read off my phone, which I never do. So we have some new store hours for in-person shopping, which I'm so excited about. We will be Monday through Thursday, 12 to 6, Fridays and Saturdays, 10 to 6, and Sundays from 1 to 6. If you are coming in our store, we are still asking that you are wearing your mask before entering the store. Our priority is our staff and our community. There is so much going on in the world right now. There's so much unknown that we are still adhering to these protocols, that 6 feet distance, the sanitizing, the masks when you are in our stores. If you do not feel comfortable doing so, you can still absolutely take advantage of the curbside pickup options that I mentioned previously. Last things, social media. We make it really easy for you to find us. It's the @ sign at Brazos Bookstore on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So you will have no problems finding us. We made it really simple. If you are not a social media person, I really can't blame you a lot of the times. You can still go to brazosbookstore.com, click sign up for newsletter, put in that little email address of yours, hit accept. We'll email you once a week on Tuesdays. Let me go ahead. That's it for housekeeping. I know y'all want to get to the food, right? So let me introduce you to our book, our event today, and our 2 authors. We are here to celebrate A Good Meal is Hard to Find, Storied Recipes from the Deep South, published by Chronicle Books. We have both of the authors here, Amy C. Evans and Martha Hall Foose. How are you two today?
We're so good. Thank you for having us.
All right, let me read your bios real quick, just in case people want to learn more about you before we begin. Amy is an award-winning artist, writer, and documentarian based in Houston, Texas. She graduated from the city's acclaimed high school for the performing and visual arts, holds a BFA in printmaking from the Maryland Institute College of Art, and an MA in Southern Studies from the University of Mississippi. She's also a painter, and her paintings have appeared in Southern Living, Southern Cultures, The Bitter Southerner. Her writing has also appeared in The Bitter Southerner, The Local Palate, and Cornbread Nation 5, The Best of Southern Food Writing. She also built the documentary program at the Southern Foodways Alliance, headquartered at the University of Mississippi, where she served as their lead oral historian for more than a decade. Amy, you've done a lot of awesome stuff.
I stay busy. Thank you.
Yes. We also have Martha, the co-author of A Good Meal is Hard to Find. Martha's cookbook career began with Screen Doors and Sweet Tea, Recipes and Tales of a Southern Cook, the best-selling homage to Southern cooking. It won the James Beard Award for American Cooking and the Southern Independent Booksellers Award. Her well-received follow-up, A Southerly Course, Recipes and Stories from Close to Home, found its way onto the best of the best lists from NPR and Food and Wine. Y'all have such amazing bios, and what I'll make sure to do is I will add your websites to the chat in just a moment so people can check out more about you.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Before I turn off my video and hand the event over, I want to remind our audience members that at any point you can message in the chat any questions you have for Martha and Amy, and I will be asking them throughout the event. So if you have questions, drop them in that chat and I will make sure they get asked. All right, Amy, Martha, I'm gonna turn off my camera and microphone. Holler if you need me. Have a great event.
Thank you, Cassie.
Really, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brazos. And a cute apron, Martha's apron. I just happened to see that pop up. Martha, where'd you get your apron?
It was a gift from a thrifted establishment.
Those are the best. Mine, I just got at Anthropology because it's super cute and I love the colors. I'm gonna reach up to the camera, which may be a little bit much for y'all, but I wanna make us bigger, but I can't do that. Okay. We're just gonna trust that you can see everything you need to see. Tell us if we need to move anything around, Cassie, as we work. Thank you all for being here. I am based in Houston, which Cassie did tell y'all, but I'm here in Greenwood, Mississippi, in the Mississippi Delta with Martha at her house in her home kitchen, where we hatched a lot of the stories and recipes and ideas for our collaboration.
Right over here in the kitchen bed.
In the kitchen bed, which is mentioned in the introduction. If you have the book, please read the introduction because it tells you a lot. We'll tell you a little bit here, but all the good stuff's in the book, of course. But so Martha, what do you have to say to start us off?
Just I'm tickled to finally get to spend more time with Amy. You know, it's been a long year. Putting this book together has been a really long journey. And I'm so glad that y'all are joining us. It means a lot, all the support we've gotten throughout the year. And just to be able to start getting back out there and sharing with everyone just means the world to me. So.
Yeah, so the book came out in April of 2020, just a few weeks after COVID lockdown. And so we just had our very first in-person and together book event here in Greenwood about 3 weeks ago. And now this is our second only time that we've been together to promote the book. So this is really fun for us, very symbolic to be in Martha's kitchen, spent so much time here. And I also want to give out a shout out to my friend Will Jacks in Cleveland, Mississippi, who has Jack's Farms. And the reason I'm in Mississippi is because I'm doing an artist residency out there for 2 weeks. And so I'm in the Mississippi Delta for 2 weeks. Anybody who knows me knows that I have a soft spot for the Mississippi Delta and come here a lot.
We claim her as a cousin.
Yes. And so I've been coming here about 20 years, known Martha about 20 years. And so it's a place I visit a lot. So thank you to Will Jacks for having me in the Delta. We're bopping around doing all kinds of things, but right now we're gonna make a cocktail. And we're gonna make Maxine's pin curl. Martha is slicing some limes. I'm gonna have to put on my readers because that's where we are in life. I think my third grade teacher is on this call from Vancouver, British Columbia. So she's visited me in Mississippi too. Came from my wedding that Martha made the cake for. I'm divorced now, but anyway, there's Elizabeth. Hi. Hi. So my third grade teacher is on the call, y'all. I'm gonna try not to cuss, okay? So Martha's starting Maxine's pin curl. What?
I just think we need to kind of explain a second that this book, it doesn't really doesn't contain any food photography at all. So we'd love for people to share pictures at agoodmealishardtofind.com of anything that they make at home. And the head notes in recipes that are usually giving you some instruction about freezing things or make ahead, that sort of thing. We kind of flipped the switch on this. And so we started this book inspired by the titles of Amy's paintings. And for several years, I bugged her and bugged her and bugged her that the titles of your paintings would make wonderful head notes for recipes. And she finally acquiesced. And so what we did was sort of make a community cookbook of imaginary friends. And we'll get more into that later. So all of the head notes are actually little fictional vignettes of these imaginary friends of ours. So
yeah, and so this is the painting for Maxine's pin curl. And the fun thing I like to say about the book is all the paintings came first. So Martha really illustrated the cookbook with her recipes instead of the other way around.
And there's a few, I think we've got like 5 or
Yeah,
6.
like there's newbies. Yeah, 5 that I had to make to fill in some gaps that we had. But so this Maxine's pin curl painting, and I have all my paintings for a long time have been about these imaginary women and their life stories. And so that's where the community cookbook element came in for this. And so the original title to my Maxine's pin curl painting on page 69 of the book, if you're reading along, the original title of the painting is Maxine stayed in to tend to a few things. And so then we got together, and I'll read the full head note that we developed to go with the pin curl cocktail. So you see what Martha did. I think it's a gin and tonic that I painted in the painting, but Martha looked at that and said, with the pin curl clips that I have painted at the top there, and came up with this fun recipe. So the head note is, Maxine stayed in to tend to a few things. She appreciated Rosemary's invitation and told her as much, but Maxine just couldn't bear the thought of attending another one of her venomous gossip sessions masquerading as cocktail hour. She made a fine and stiff drink herself, thank you, and planned on sipping one as she caught up on her house chores. Better to get something done than rub elbows with those old hens. And so Martha is getting ready to make a pin curl, the ingredients for which are ice cubes for the glass and a shaker.
And I'm improvising this shaker situation because my shaker's down at my other house, down at Pluto, Mississippi, which some of y'all might have read about in dispatches for Pluto. And I also want to give a disclaimer for all the mixologists out there. I know y'all are going to say, if you shake the gin in a cocktail shaker, it will bruise it. Well, okay. But also in the cocktail shaker, it really does help to break up the lime marmalade that we're going to be using. So I'm going to continue.
I do want to continue and also thank Janet at British Isles in Rice Village in Houston, who bought some extra inventory of Rose's lime marmalade for this event, because it's hard to find, but they have a whole wall of jams and marmalade there at British Isles. Why am I trying to make marmalade past tense? Okay.
Marmalade.
Okay, so you have your ice cubes for the glass and the shaker. You have 1 jigger of gin, which is 1.5 ounces of gin. We have our beautiful blue Bombay Sapphire bottle. I'm not a huge gin drinker, Martha, are you?
No, but
we like brown liquor down here in the Delta. So.
My cousin has a great quote. We were discussing gin and tonics, and my cousin Leanne, I hope she's tuned in.
Hey,
she had not me telling this on her. I said I can't drink gin because it makes me mean, and she said I can't drink gin because it makes me a mom. All right, so we got our gin in. What comes next?
1 tablespoon of triple sec or any orange liqueur.
We are using today, and you know, there are a lot of recipe sticklers, and I try to make my recipes as accurate as possible, but also I live in the real world, and so you know, I think of them as jumping off point. And so we are using, since we are down south, a Satsuma liqueur. So this
got a real cute label with the gator.
I don't have my reader's line, so Amy, can you type it for you?
Bayou Satsuma.
Okay. We'll buy you
Bayou
Satsuma.
Satsuma.
And you don't need to buy a whole bottle, just a little airline size.
It was 3 for $1 at the local liquor store today. I'm just gonna say.
Because we're classy.
Okay, so triple sec or any orange liqueur. 1 teaspoon of that lime marmalade. And hand me that after you're done getting your teaspoon because.
And I'm doubling this because we're doubles.
Marmalade really hits with the thud. So when Miss Janet at British Isles helped me order more of this for those of y'all in Houston who are cooking with us, I asked if she knew anything about the Roses brand, because it's so cute and it goes with the book. It's got all the little flowers and stuff on it. But would you know that Rose is a man's last name in England who in 1865 he used to supply the limes to all of the ships and sailors so they wouldn't get scurvy.
Yeah, we're trying to prevent scurvy here. It's totally medicinal.
Yeah, so and then he thought, well, let me make this more broaden my audience for all these limes, and so he made the limeade. And I think that it's such a good story because we like backstories around here. And so after the marmalade, you want a splash of seltzer. And of course we have our beloved Topo Chico.
Any sort of
bubbly water.
All right, let's see how this goes.
And then you get you a lime wedge. And you will have done it.
I'll tell you, once a cocktail waitress, always a cocktail waitress. Let's take this out of the way.
And we have one of the really fun things about doing the book together was to have all these little kind of sidebar notes. Thank you. These cute little glasses, footed glasses. Cheers to you. And cheers to y'all out there. Let's see.
Tastes like summer.
Might make my hair curl right up, Maxine. But I was gonna say we have all these notions and notes that are little kind of tagged on PS moments throughout the book. Because we started talking about that because I have a whole series of paintings, most all of which are featured in the book that I had a show in Houston at the Keels. It is so good. At the Keels store, which is the cosmetics place. Franny Kelch, my gallery owner in Houston, set me up with that. And so I did this whole body of work based on basically grease and like vintage beauty treatments was the body of work. So a lot of those paintings are in the book. And so I thought it would be fun to add in the book little moments about how you can use Crisco to rub on.
Or bubbles.
Oh gosh, to rub on your feet and elbows, or you can put mayonnaise in your hair. That's for Ruby.
This will make it even more refreshing.
So anyway, so that's how the little sidebar notes started happening. But the notion and notes for Maxine's pin curl on page 68 says that we recommend Hat Trick Gin from Highwire Distilling in Charleston, South Carolina, because they have botanical notes, including coriander, cardamom, and angelica root. And they're friendly with us. They're friends of ours. And we like to talk about our friends. We have more friends throughout the book.
It's all right. Skip the effervescence, but now it makes it even more summery.
Yeah, that's real good. I hope y'all are having one. It's real good. And then the other notions and notes from the pin curl page is that we enjoy sipping pin curls while nibbling on Grace's 4-corner nabs. And so Martha is about to make some mayonnaise. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the nabs because this was one of the very early, the very early recipes, because as we collected our ideas for the book and our manuscript to shop around, I also painted a new painting that we were going to promote as the cover, which is this. And this is a story about my mom's family. Hi, Mom, if you're out there. And her mother, Grace Browder Riley, who...
And no, that is not a picture of a Cheez-It. It's a nab.
Not a Cheez-It.
I'll add more about that later.
But there's this family story about my my grandmother, Grace Browder Riley, bringing a ham in a little carry-on suitcase or train case on the plane from Decatur, Alabama to Houston, Texas. And I had always talked about that story and wanted to paint that painting and never did. And so we thought it would be a great one for the book. So I have this ham in a suitcase and then the orange nab underneath, because she used to send me, when I would fly home from Decatur every summer, she would pack me with some peanut butter nabs for a snack. And then that China pattern on the bottom from her, thank you, Elizabeth, from her China that I had, the Dusty Rose or whatever it's called. This is more dogwood that I made it, but I think it's Dusty Rose. Anyway, so this was, we thought was going to be the cover of the book. Can I hear that, Matt? But it did not make the cut. And here's a funny aside, is that in designing the cover of the book, we had many iterations of these 3 objects for the cover, one of which was a combination of a nab and a mullet fish and a pink foam roller for your hair. And I think we established a new rule for Chronicle books, is that there are no hair items allowed on the covers of cookbooks. So they told us, they also thought the nab was a Cheez-It, so we had to set them straight on that.
We did get a pink foam roller in the interior, so.
Yes, and so that's something that I think is really fun about the book, because it's, and I use it, I teach with writers in the schools in Houston, and I use some of these head notes and recipes as writing prompts for some of my elementary school children. And in doing that, I realized that a lot of the cookbook is kind of PG-13, most of it, in fact.
There's some trysts, there's some broken hearts, there's some flirtations, there's some assignations,
some one-night stands, some cigarette smoking, all kinds of things in a cookbook, which is very fun. So anyway, the recipe for Grace's 4-corner naps is one of the more intensive recipes in the book, and it's amazing that Martha even figured all that out. It's a beautiful recipe.
It took a gazillion tries, and it is the most involved recipe, but it's worth it. So.
It is. And then everything else is really fun, because as I said before, you know, the paintings came first. So Martha, in doing her recipes to illustrate the paintings, I paint a lot of vintage canned goods and like vintage tubs of Crisco and vintage cans of salmon. So a lot of these are, you know, what do you call that? Semi-homemade, so that you get a lot of stuff and also, off the shelf and then just put it together.
One thing that I really wanted to stress, because we're going to be doing the mayonnaise recipe next, is that Amy's paintings are complex, but they're usually just 3 items and a pattern involved in them. And so I wanted to keep most of the recipes really short and to the point. So the majority of the recipes, and how many do we have? 60. Are just 1-pagers. So it's not, you know, I'm not trying to make you spend a whole day in the kitchen, but, you know, get a lot of bang for your buck. And also, one of the things I love about the head notes is that they kind of leave you wondering. So you have to sort of fill in the gap and fill in the rest of the things. And that's one of the thing about the cooking in general, is that, you know, you work with what you have, and then you improvise, and then you fill in your own flavors. And so with the head notes, I really wanted people to fill in their own flavors. So.
And Martha is an amazing cook. She's, as you heard, won James Beard Awards and all that kind of thing. She can make anything. But this book is how I cook. That's how I like to cook, because you know, my Alabama grandmother, again, Grace Browder Riley, and the Cotton Country Cooking Cookbook from the Decatur Junior League is my family's cookbook. And everything's kind of, that's lots of cans of mushroom soup and Ritz crackers and stuff in there. So that's the way I cook. I'm a single mom, and that's how I do. So
one thing that I really love about community cookbooks is you see so many hilarious things. And one thing Amy and I really kind of got into a deep sort of thoughtful conversation about is that in a lot of community cookbooks from the 50s and all the way up through when I was in high school in the 80s, the women that contributed recipes to things like the Chula Garden Club cookbook and the Junior League cookbooks and Symphony Leagues aren't identified by their first name. So they're either Mrs., like an example, Mrs. J.D. Munson's Cold Tongue is the name of the recipe, which I would love. But I don't know what her first name is. And sometimes you might have like Mrs. J.T. Smith, nay Thompson, but you still don't know who her name is. And so one of the things we wanted to do in the head notes to this is sort of reclaim some of the fanfare and the personal lives of these people that are just sort of tossed off as not even having their own name. So,
and that reminds me to give a shout out to Ronnie Lundy, our dear friend, who is in North Carolina, but she sent me years ago now a community cookbook from Saltville, Virginia. And she called me and she said, Amy, I am reading this cookbook and all I can do is think about you and your paintings, because all the recipes that were submitted, they had like short little biographical sketches of the people from which the recipe originated. And I did a whole series of paintings, I think 12 paintings that are now hanging in Biscuit Love in Nashville, Tennessee. If anybody's been there, you can see all my Saltville paintings there. But let's get to making some mayonnaise. So the mayonnaise, I'm gonna go to the mayonnaise recipe, but let's start with Duke's. So we have the real thing and then my painting of the Dukes, which this has been my most popular painting I have ever done. It has been in Southern Living. It has, where else? It's been everywhere. People love this darn painting. And the title of the painting is Camille's grandmother loved Duke's mayonnaise and costume jewelry. So you see there's a little rhinestone brooch over there. But then the Duke's people we love, they are great friends of us and we love Duke's mayonnaise. There's always a lot of people who are singing the praises of Duke's mayonnaise because it doesn't have any sugar in it.
Well, also
right?
There's a great debate.
Okay.
There are your blue plate people, there are your Hellman's people, and we're just not going to get into the Miracle Whip conversation. This is no time for that. But I am a huge fan of making your own mayonnaise. And so, Amy, if you want to turn
yes,
to,
so in the beginning of the book,
and I'm going to squeeze this lemon just quickly. If you roll the lemon back and forth like this, you're really going to get so much more juice out of it. So really give it a good massage before you begin juicing it.
So we have lots of recipes in the book that call for mayonnaise. And so in the beginning of the book on page 13, opposite the introduction that I wrote to the book, we have a recipe for Duchess's mayonnaise, since this is all about our women folk. Martha has this Duchess's mayonnaise because our community is practically bound by mayonnaise, which I think is true. And so her recipe makes a heaping cup, and you need
Hold on just 1 second.
a tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice.
Got it. Hold on, can pass
With your
right here.
juicer. Okay. And what are you going to reach for next? Put it in your canning jar.
And use a wide mouth one. We're going to use an immersion blender. So, and also a taller vessel helps eliminate splatters. And when we get through with this, I'll talk about my mom's tried and true method of mayonnaise. Okay, so go ahead. So we got
Okay, so you're out of order, but that's the vinegar. You need the 1 tablespoon distilled white vinegar, and then you're going to reach for sea salt, 1 teaspoon fine sea salt, and then you're going to reach for the mustard powder, 1 teaspoon dry mustard powder.
And this will probably end up in a painting eventually of Amy's.
Yes, I can't believe I haven't painted. I have those cans all over my house with pencils and why haven't I painted the mustard?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll get to doing that. And then, so after the teaspoon of dry mustard powder, you're going to reach for what? Your cayenne? What are you going for?
Yes, I'm going to add a little dash of cayenne.
Pinch of cayenne.
And I kind of like to pinch it up a little bit.
More than a pinch.
Yeah. Well, this is a
Ooh,
shake.
Goodness.
But as it sits, it kind of, gets spicier.
That's
so
magic.
if you taste it right away, you might think you need more, but give it a couple of hours and try it again.
Okay,
Alright,
and
this
then
is
you
gonna
need
be-
your
This is gonna be loud.
eggs later.
Get this ready, so I'm ready to go. All right, and speaking of eggs, we have, so lucky, we have
Aw.
a home egg delivery here in Greenwood from Levy Run Farms. So that's great.
So
We don't have a milkman, but we do have an egg lady.
Leanne Hines is one of my favorite people in the world, and I interviewed her and captured her oral history some years ago, and she started raising chickens for the Greenwood Farmers Market to sell eggs. She figured that was a hole she could fill here in the local farmers market, and she just turned into the chicken lady. It's like she's living her best life with her chickens.
In my phone, she's listed as Chicken Leanne.
Yeah, she's the best. So hey, Leanne out there. Now what? Okay, so you have your 1 large egg and 1 large egg yolk, and now you have got your immersion blender.
Going. And then in here we've got our avocado oil and canola oil, but you can use soybean oil, cottonseed oil, you know, pretty much grapeseed oil, anything.
Just to add some flavor to the canola oil. Is that
Yeah.
what you're doing?
Well, also, you know, there's some more like healthy things that people say about, you know, lower cholesterol and blah, blah, blah.
Healthy mayonnaise.
You heard it here first. All right, so
Drizzles the oil into the jar. I think people are afraid of breaking their mayonnaise if they were to make it at home. What should you do to avoid breaking mayonnaise?
follow this recipe.
Follow the recipe. Okay.
A couple of things. I mean, look how thick this emulsion is. I mean, it really is miraculous how fast. I mean, that's bigger than a trip to the store. And since we're in
And it'll
peak,
last forever.
since we're in peak tomato season, you know, go all out, give it a try. There are a couple of things. People have a fear that the eggs haven't been cooked that are in here. If you do have somebody with compromised immune system and all that, you can buy pasteurized eggs in the dairy aisle, but also the vinegar and lemon juice actually sort of cooks the eggs. And Alton Brown has a very controversial idea of that you should actually leave it out of the refrigerator for a little while to give those acids time to cook the eggs. But I live on the wild side. What can I say? I live in hummingbirds. Okay.
And how easy was that? So, like I said,
you cannot get to the store fast enough.
we have a bunch of recipes with the mayonnaise, but since I introduced you to Camille and the Duke's painting, I'm going to read the head note for that because the recipe is Camille's Bridge Club egg salad, which is delish. And so the original painting title I read to you is the first sentence of the head note. Camille's grandmother loved Duke's mayonnaise and costume jewelry. Given the right crowd, she could pass them both off as the real thing. She was quite a hand at duplicate bridge, although she preferred rubber. When Camille was cleaning out the kitchen drawers in preparation for the dreaded estate sale, she found one of her grandmother's old scorecards with over-trick points and slam bonuses charted on one side and an egg salad recipe on the back. And this was inspired by your neighbor.
Yep, Ms.
Neighbor.
Riley,
Yes.
who was a bridge champion up until her 90s. You would always see her in the newspaper. We are lucky enough to still have a hometown newspaper, which, you know, knock on wood, despite how much uproar it might cause occasionally, the fact that Greenwood can still keep a newspaper coming is great. But Ms. Riley Cole was one of the best neighbors you could ever have in the world. And so the bridge champion aspect came in inspired by her.
And so, you know, when we first met to talk about the book at her family's home place in Pluto, Mississippi, and we really did, and I mentioned this in the foreword of the book, we really did sit around and talk about the ladies and who they are and what they liked and what they didn't like. And we interspersed a lot of stories from our own families, and really came, what did you always like to say about the book? Like, on the paintings, you're the recipes and we're the creamy center.
We're like a little Debbie oatmeal pie. Like the two of us are the little cakey oatmeal part, and then the fluffy cream filling is where we sort of collaborated in the middle with things.
Yeah, so fun.
In the world of mayonnaise, I have to give a shout out to my mom, Cindy Foose. These are homemade mayonnaise makers that were promoted by the Lesson Oil Company. And on the jar here is a recipe for homemade mayonnaise. And my mother had one and she broke the jar part of it. And it's great because once you take this off, a mason jar lid will fit on the top so that you can store it in the refrigerator, and it makes like a double batch of what we made today. And this involves, you see on the lid here, there's the plunger has a little hole right here, and then there are these little divots, and they let the perfect amount of oil dribble into your mayonnaise. And this is a really fun thing. You know, when you have a party and people come up in the kitchen, well, because the kitchen is the best place to hang out, but also you're trying to get stuff done, so you want them to be busy. This is a great job to give the person that you like the least at the party. And what you do is you have your eggs, basically the same method we did right then, but you're going to plunge this up and down as you slowly dribble the oil in. But my mother's fear of breaking them has inspired her to buy, I don't even think this is all of the ones that she has. I have one, but I know that she's got backups.
Mama Cindy with the backups. That contraction reminds me of in 2005, I think it was, back in that time, Viking Range Corporation, professional performance ranges for the home, was really hopping here in Greenwood, Fred Carl's brainchild. And that's around the time that I met Martha. And then Viking Range Corporation and the Culinary Institute of America came together to do, because they still do all these international culinary tours. I went to Sicily on one of them. I was lucky enough to do that. But they did one here in the Mississippi Delta back in around 2005, and we went to Pluto, Martha's family's home place, and I remember Martha doing the performance of making the homemade mayonnaise.
Well, we had a homemade mayonnaise making contest.
Yes, that's
race.
yes,
We had,
yes.
green pea and fresh English pea and mint salad. We had, basically, it was the grand aioli, but Delta style.
It was so fun. Oh, it was so long ago. I was just telling that story recently because I was covered up with poison ivy around that time. Anyway, we do what needs to be done. So the mayonnaise that Martha just made is going to
Delicious.
one of many mayonnaise covered recipes in the book.
Mayonnaise infused.
Mayonnaise infused. So this is Georgia K's Marinated Green Bean Millefiori on page 93. And this happens to be one of the paintings that I made after the fact, because we needed to fill it, like, you know, if you don't have enough vegetables, we need another vegetable recipe. I need to do
party snacks.
Party snacks. I need to do.
Because once you coat it in mayonnaise.
Yeah. Mayonnaise is the vehicle for the vegetables. But so this is one of the paintings that I did for the book with the Duchess sauce, vintage glass jar of it, and then the green bean, and then the clothespin. And then over here, where are my hands? Okay, over here, this pattern in the gray is a colander. It's supposed to mimic the pattern on a colander. Because when, I don't know the last time any of y'all saw Driving Miss Daisy, but early in the film, Esther Roll plays the maid. She was also Florida in Good Times. She plays the maid, and she's sitting in the kitchen with the checkered floor, and she's snapping beans and watching her stories on the television, and then she has a heart attack and all the beans spill to the floor. And so that's what I was thinking of when I was doing this painting in the colander, because it just really reminded me of that beautiful scene, that beautifully sad scene. And then you tell us about Georgia K.
Georgia K is Mrs. Darrell Mills May Anderson K, and she is part of a wonderful family from Yazoo City, Mississippi. There are 3 sisters and a brother, Mary Lee, Kay, and Ann. And Mary Lee's nickname is Precious Magnolia, and Kay's nickname is Cuba. But they are the consummate entertainers. And their mother, Olive, who passed away a few years ago, belovedly referred to as Big O, they roll up in your driveway and they've got basically an entire cocktail party in their trunk. And these are one of the snacks that they always bring. And a big shout out to Danielle Cox Morgan, who heads our, I think it's tourism, I don't know what her official title is, but she does so much for Greenwood. So this is inspired by her family, and they have always been so generous. They are never the people that you say, oh, can I have the recipe? They never say, no, it's my secret recipe. They are super generous in their kitchens and beloved by all, and they catered my wedding.
There we go. Wedding speech or commentary. I'm going to read the head note real quick.
Okay.
Okay. So the painting title, the title that I gave the painting after I made it, is Georgia K always looked forward to snapping beans, which is, I told you my inspiration was that scene in Driving Miss Daisy. It seemed the only time she had to herself anymore. This year, she doubled her usual planting of pole beans just so she could spend the fall snapping and canning. She knew she set herself up for more work, but it'd be worth it. Now all Georgia K had to do was make it through the rest of summer. Isn't that the truth? It is very steamy in the Mississippi Delta today. Boy.
Damn.
So the thing I love about this recipe is that you flatten a piece of white sandwich bread, but we'll get to that. But I just love that. And I have a painting. This is the bunny bread from my painting of Tula. I did a whole series of paintings about kind of vernacular architecture in the landscape. And it started with down by Pluto, Martha's family's home place in Tula, Mississippi. There is this mile long, it's not a mile long, but it's a very long building that has just been added to spontaneously.
Would you call it lilac?
You call, yeah, no, I don't know if it's lilac. It's a little more aubergine, but
It might be just straight up purple.
that's not very Delta to say aubergine. But anyway, it's this bright purple building, and it's very long, and it's been added onto over the years. And Martha always says that in Pluto, you're 17 miles from a gallon of milk. Like once you go to Pluto, you need to just you stay on Pluto. And so I did a painting of that purple building, and then because if you'll notice in most of my paintings, I have this edge where it's a fabric pattern or a colander pattern, and that kind of adds another layer of meaning for me for my paintings, and like, vintage patterns to kind of set the era for the woman whose kind of portrait that I've made in objects. Anyway, and so on the left-hand side of the composition of the purple building in Tula, I have a stack of bunny bread. Show the end of the bunny bread with the bunny on it. It's that one. Nope, that one. Nope, that one. Show that one. Yeah, so it's a stack of the bunny bread. So cute. So anyway, that's a little aside. So now you have, for Georgia K's Marinated green bean Millefiori. But
Did you read that note?
I did, yeah. That's okay. So this will make 4 dozen of these beautifully wrapped
At
white
least.
sandwich
Now-
bread things.
To qualify things,
Mhm.
is that it depends on how long your loaf, your life of white bread. Your loaf of white bread is. This is the giant loaf. Now, there's some come and go. It depends, you could use a Texas toast. Well, you'll get a few more thicker ones out of it. But if you want quantity, you're going to need some.
So like the big loaf from
white
HEB,
bread.
I like to get the small loaf because I don't use that much bread in my house. But if you get the big loaf at the HEB,
It depends on how big your party is.
Yeah, well, just pretty cool.
Or if you're like the Anderson ladies,
Mhm.
if you're going to roll up in somebody's driveway, pop the trunk, boom, pull these out, and you will be.
I told a friend, Vicky, yesterday in Houston, we were on the phone, and I said, because when I rolled into Mississippi for this trip, I stopped in Jackson and I was treated like a queen, or like the queen that I am, I will say. But they put out this spread, the Shermans in Jackson, Mississippi. And, I walked in, they handed me a cocktail, told me to take my shoes off, sit down, eat, drink, laugh. We had the best time. And I was telling my friend Vicky about that last night. And I said, you know what, this is what I miss most about being in Mississippi. And then the light bulb went off and I thought, I guess I need to be the hospitality I want to see in the world. So Houston, I'm coming back and I'm going to start hosting you if you want to come to my house for some things from the recipe and a strong cocktail and take your shoes off. Okay. So you need
One more thing. Again, people have things to do, places to go, people to see. Once again, thank goodness, or maybe not. We'll see how it goes. You can skip everything I'm about to do here. Well, not everything, but a lot of it. If you're at the farmer's market, pick up a jar of pickled green beans, great in a Bloody Mary. These that we're about to make are also great in a Bloody Mary. But, if time is of the essence and you need to throw together a drop-in company snack, just get these.
Yes. Love a marinated green bean. I love the Bloody Mary as a vehicle for the
And
vegetables.
as we go through the ingredients,
Oh, Vicky's here. I just saw the top of that comment. Vicky Fowler is feeling some kind of way, but she's going to be invited to my house when I am the hospitality I want to see in the world. Okay. So, are you ready?
kick it off.
Okay. So first you need a pound of tender green beans that you will have blanched.
And a few words about blanching. A great tip I got from my super dear friend, Karen Carrier, who has the Beauty Shop restaurant in Memphis, Tennessee, which we will be up there on
July 31st.
July 31st for a brunch, is when you're blanching, you're going to bring your water to a boil. You've already, snapped and cleaned your green beans because nobody wants to, floss their teeth while they're eating things. Bring your water to a really strong boiling boil. Then you're going to add a giant pinch of all things. I know it sounds crazy, but baking soda. And what this is going to do, it's going to set the color. So once they come out, they are still vibrant green. So you're going to boil them just until they're tender. Then when you get them off the stove, you're going to drain them with a colander, and then you're going to run them under cold water. And you're going to put them in, my ice is melted, but a bowl where you're going to have it full of cold water. You're going to put your beans in there that have already been rinsed in cold water, and then you're going to put ice on the top. And that's going to stop the cooking process, and it's really going to help keep them, vibrantly green. So that's just a little blanch.
Mm-hmm. And as an artist, I appreciate the vibrancy of those green beans.
Right.
Okay, so now what Martha is going to do, she is going to, or she would have, put the green beans in a resealable bag with her marinade and refrigerate it for at least 2 hours and up to 24.
Okay, you're going to scoot to the
to the marinade. Okay, so in our notes and notions, we have the great marinade for all sorts of vegetables that consists of 1 cup of soybean oil.
And again, you can use whatever oil you've got on hand.
1/4 cup of white wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons red wine vinegar. Why the 2 vinegars, Martha?
Because The white has a little bit more brighter flavor, and the red has a little bit more deeper flavor. So it's going to give you a good mix there.
And then half a teaspoon honey. I know you want to talk about your honey.
In the journal, which is accompanies A Good Meal is Hard to Find, a pocketbook of notes and notions.
It's so much. It's so much.
We have a road trip section.
Okay.
That after we wrote the book, I went on this road trip, and I just wanted to give a big shout out.
Road trips.
Oddly enough, I think the world's largest, or at least the largest in this hemisphere, bonsai tree nursery is right here in Mississippi. Who'd have thunk it? But I'm using this honey that was made from flowers of tiny bonsai trees. So
here's the honey.
just go to Red Banks, Mississippi, and turn left, and you'll eventually run into it. But that's a great road trip.
Yeah. So this pocketbook of notes and notions, the Chronicle people they made us call it a journal. I guess for marketing purposes.
Show them the pocketbook.
That's where it goes.
The pocket.
Oh, like, it is the pocketbook. Martha really wanted this little pocketbook for all your notes and notions and coupons and ideas and things. And the bag is so cute where you can keep things. But they made us call it a journal, but it's so much more because we have our conversion charts and we have road trips. We have books to read. We have where you can keep your birthdays. We have some, our national holidays, like in March 14th is National Potato Chip Day. So you should make Ben sausage and potato chip bellboys from our cookbook. And then on March 24th, it's National Cocktail Day. So you should make Maxine's Pin Curl, which we just had. And there are road trips, gift ideas, and little recipes.
And if somebody like your friend says, "Oh, I just read this book, it's great," and then you jot it down on a piece of paper or somewhere. But this is a thing that I think can really like live in your kitchen, because
or in your pocketbook.
Yeah, or in your pocketbook, where you can write it down and keep them all in one place instead of on the back of a deposit slip, and then it's in the bottom of your purse and you never see it again. So it's a handy dandy thing. It also has which flower for birth months instead of like birthstones, and you've got
things to remember. Books to read. June birthdays should receive a rose. May birthdays, the lily of the valley.
This month.
July, the larkspur. August, the gladiolus.
So it's a fun thing, and I think it's one of those things that will just live in your kitchen, and or on your bedside table.
And it's worth passing down to the next generation.
I think
it's like the family Bible. It has all your stuff in it. Or as you said earlier in our teaser video, your hymnal. It's your hymnal. Okay, so back to Georgia K's green beans. So what are you doing now? You have your mayonnaise. So we have 1.5 cups of the vegetable marinade, which is in the notes section on page 93. Or your favorite vinaigrette. You could also buy that off the shelf.
Yeah, if you've got to knock this thing out, get your green beans. I'm not too proud to say a zesty Italian dressing.
Okay, so you have 1/4 cup of the Duchess's mayonnaise, which we made earlier.
Let me put this in.
And then she's putting her marinade over the green beans. And then you're going to have 1/4 cup of the Durkee's famous sauce, which is in my painting. And I will say, Houston friends, you can get Durkee's at Central Market. And I went over there one day to see if they have it, and I looked really lost because it's really hard for me to go in that big mall of a store. But Randy in the condiment section really helped me out, and he took me straight to the Durkee's. And then he told me this lovely story about, I think he's from South Carolina. I think that was the connection. But his father always made these sandwiches with Durkee's, and maybe he doctored it up some kind of way. But anyway, Randy told me the story about how when he was like 13 or something, his father said, "You're a man now, son. I can show you how to make the sandwiches." And so he learned. Isn't that sweet? I know.
And also shout out to Gigi. I believe it's Caruso. One of my my Central Market friends, and hopefully we'll get to come see all,
Yes,
all the
we need to make it
stores.
through. We were talking to Randy about that, getting some cooking classes going, and for Martha to reverse engineer the Durkee's famous sauce and make it up herself. So Martha has the new squeeze bottle, and then she also has a very much loved original glass jar.
No. I guess some things just aren't sacred. And again, Amy,
And now this is
flash-
very, with the metal lid, the very vintage Durkee's jar.
well, times change, as my
Yeah.
Aunt Mary says, times change. So now we have a plastic squeeze bottle, but Durkee's, I'm writing you.
What else can the people use Durkee's for? Deviled eggs, anything. It's
Yeah.
just, you want to have it. You want to have it in your
Pork
cooking.
loin, burgers, salmon croquettes, anything you need a sauce for. If you're a crab cake enthusiast and you can afford crab meat these days. But it is a famous sauce, and I don't have my readers on, so does it have a date on there? I think it does.
Fine quality since 1857.
Yeah.
Wow, a tangy mustard mayonnaise flavor. It looks like they spelled flavor with an E, but
It's exotic.
okay, so you have your mayonnaise, you have your quarter cup of Durkee's, and then you're gonna have some cream cheese in a second, 4 ounces of cream cheese.
And I've had this out on the counter, and it says room temperature. Now that's gonna be relative to where you live and what month it is. But it's the Delta in July, so this cream cheese is very soft. If you're in Vermont in November or December, just pop it in the microwave or put it on the oven while it's preheating for something else to make sure that it's really soft, so it'll combine easily.
Okay, so you already had your cream cheese in there, then the Durkee's, and then the mayonnaise, and then
And our
a
mayonnaise.
quarter
amount,
cup of Duchess's mayonnaise.
which I conveniently have written.
That's a big quarter cup, girl.
Well, you know, I'm not scared. Once again,
Okay.
it's a jumping off point.
So you will have marinated your green beans in the resealable bag. And then when you're ready to make your roll-ups, a vegetable roll-up, not a fruit roll-up, a vegetable
Okay.
roll-up.
I'm gonna jump back to our marinade. Because for Dijon mustard, which it's one of those things like Worcestershire sauce, either I have like 4 bottles of it or I have none of it. So always bring home the one from the room service. I feel like Eloise. I adore room service, but seriously, you reach for something like, oh, you're like, oh.
You want the shampoo and the mustard from the hotel.
Yeah.
So the mustard went in your marinade in case you missed
But
that.
not sugar.
But not shampoo in the marinade. So then you're mixing all that together. And then the fun part is going to be when you roll out the slices of white bread flat with a rolling pin. And then you're going to give each slice of bread a thin coat of the spread. And then Martha's going to tell you how many green beans, the magic number of green beans to place
Well, and it's
in
gonna
your
depend, the green bean situation, whether you're using a haricot vert, you know, the little tiny French green bean, or, you know, big honking Blue Lake green beans, you're gonna have to work out, but I think 3 is the magic number. Get this mashed up well.
And y'all don't forget to put questions in the chat. I have no idea what time it is since we're doing this on my phone. But I hope we're not running over. I hope that y'all are having fun. But please, if you have a question for us about anything we've said or anything you want to know about us within reason, we will answer it. And you put it in the chat, and then Cassie, our friend at Brazos, will read it out to us when the time comes. Or right now.
You are not running over. You have 20 minutes left.
Oh, wow. Well, this has gone by fast.
Okay.
Okay, she is cutting lots of bread at once to get the crusts off.
Use a serrated knife, and I like to use a cheese knife because it has these holes, and, you know,
Bread doesn't get stuck.
cheapy white bread can get a little gummy. So that keeps it from like sticking to the blade of your knife and slowing you down from having to wipe it all off.
And this knife that has been threatening me all evening, I keep moving it aside, but this
You'll get it.
was gifted to Martha by Mr. Mike in
Summer.
Sumner. I wanted to say Sledge for something, in Sumner, Mississippi.
It also makes fabulous rice
Very
cakes.
sharp. Yes.
Okay.
At Two Brooks Farms, is that it? Two Brooks Farms. So we have the white bread, the little squares. It's like playing memory on your cutting board. I love that game. And I'll read. Martha says, when you're ready to make your roll-ups, roll each slice of bread flat with a rolling pin. In a small bowl, make a spread with your dukes. You did that. Give each slice of bread a thin coat of the spread. Place 3 green beans in a stack near one edge of the bread and roll the bread around the beans tightly, making a cylinder filled with beans.
And
Place.
one thing about rolling, I encourage y'all to find one of these short little rollers. You can find them in a lot of international markets.
Or a broom handle, perhaps.
You could go there, but this is such a handy size because when you get out your whole big rolling pin, it can be a little unwieldy. So I like to use this little petite.
And that rolling out the white bread is like what happens after you make and start eating a tomato sandwich. Is everything just gets thin and dense.
All right, so we're going to spread some of this.
So she's spreading some of that.
And I'm so in love with these. I'm going to use my glitter knife.
And wasn't that a gift from Mentor?
It was, and
Our friend
Mentor, and she is featured in the seafood cocktail with red ice, which is frozen clamato that you put some beautiful chilled seafood on top of it first.
And that was an Amy fail in the book, is that that was one of the paintings that I did after the fact, because Martha really wanted to do this recipe. And so we were talking about putting the clamato in one of those aluminum ice trays that has a lever on it that I was calling the Widowmaker because they are so sharp. And so the plan was for me to do a painting of one of those aluminum ice trays, but I found that very challenging. And so I failed Martha in that way visually. But the painting that I ended up doing is one of my favorites in the book. It's very Florida, and Mentor lives in Florida. And you can see there the motto and the crab claw and the nail.
Here is stacked up 3 green beans, and it's going to depend on what your green bean situation is. You're going to put them at one end like this, and what's going to happen is this is going to act as glue and keep them all together. And then you're going to roll them up just like this.
Seam side down for the instructions in the book.
And I might get some Anderson Girl blowback for my technique here, but they are the pros. Oops. Let me trim this a little bit.
So it's like the cucumber sandwich of the cocktail world, but long and thin with
and
your
the
green beans.
reason it has the name, we'll get a little more done because this is right there with this. I'm going to eat some. I bet Amy will too. Is because once we cut them, they're going to look like those little Italian blown glass beads that have the color on the outside and then a little floral pattern on the inside. So that's why we gave them a fancy name, and giving them a fancy name was sort of a inside joke because, or an outside joke, I guess, is how non-fancy they are, but they taste so delicious. They really do seem fancy.
And they look so labor intensive, but they're really not. Like, it's a lot of bang for your cocktail.
And especially if you just pick up some pickled green beans at the farmer's market. So,
looks so good. I can smell the marinade from here.
We do not have the magic of television nor a staff of hundreds behind the scenes. So what you'd want to do at this point is to put them in the refrigerator and let that softened cream cheese kind of seize up a little bit more. It's going to hold everything together a bit more. And then we're going to cut these into 4 little beads. And the inside, they look like this. Can you see?
So cute. And then I'm going to eat it.
We have a fun question from Vicky that made me smile. I think it'll make you smile. Is this veggie sushi rolls of the South?
Yes, it is exactly that. With no fish. Yes. Veggie sushi rolls.
And
absolutely.
you can use Cubie mayonnaise if you are a sushi aficionado.
So good. And the beans didn't even sit in the marinade very long.
If you are a head planner, which usually I'm not, you know, you can do these ahead of time, and you want to store them in a resealable, you know, Tupperware or, you know, glass container with a lid. And if you're going to make them a day ahead of time, you want to get a paper towel, just slightly damp, squeeze out as much water as you can, and put that between the layers, and it'll keep them, you know, from kind of melding into each one, and also keep your bread really squishy as it should be. And again, this is not the time for the artisan fancy pants bread, but feel free.
I think it calls for the white sandwich bread. I think that's the requirement. All right. Well, any more questions? We love questions, and I would love to hear.
Usually those are so good.
They're so good. Yeah, I'm gonna get to eat. Any questions? Mama Cindy, Mama Marianne, Elizabeth, who else out there? Questions. I had a question recently. I presented at the River Oaks Country Club for a women's meeting there monthly. They meet monthly. And I was talking so favorably about Martha and our collaboration. And she said, you made it sound like it just was really easy. And it couldn't have been that easy. And I said, it really was that easy. Like we sat down and it just all came together.
The writing part was a breeze. The painting part came together. It was all the rest of it.
It just really, it was a dream collaboration. It was so much fun.
So, who knows, we might do it again.
So wait for a question. They're so good. But we're both real glad. What is your signing schedule? Is that Leanne Galt? I saw the name came and went. Signing schedule is on the book's website, agoodmealisHardToFind.com, and we have an events page there. And since I'm here for 2 weeks on this artist retreat in the Delta, we put a lot of things on our calendar. So we're going to be this Saturday, we're going to be at Joe's White Front Hot Tamale Place in Rosedale, Mississippi, which is like, that is my book signing dream come true, because we mention Barbara Pope, who has White Fronts in Rosedale, Mississippi, because Leanne, thank you, Leanne. I see now what you did. So Lenore Ann's Hot Tamale Balls in the book, which I do have a marker for somewhere if I can get to the right one. Because of all the field work I did in the Delta and all my people in the Delta and all the things about the Delta that I want people to know, one of those things is that hot tamales are a very big deal here, a very big deal. And mostly, and so mostly, you know, the short story is that the recipe came from Mexican field hands and were passed down to the Black community, who made them for some extra money, made and sold them for some extra money, and then the tradition just caught on. So you can barely swing a cat without hitting a hot tamale place in the Delta. And we won't say the other thing about cats and tamales, but I'm having a real hard time finding this, and I know I put a marker there. Page 82, I know that. That's why I didn't put a marker. So on page 82 is Lenore Ann's Delta Hot Tamale Balls, because Delta tamales are very labor intensive. You know, it's a handmade food that have so many complicated steps. And here in the Delta, a lot of people make, sell, serve, tote them in these recycled aluminum cans that you can just put on the eye of a stove to reheat, because the thing about Delta tamales is that they're simmered in water. They're not steamed like traditional.
Seasoned water,
not seasoned water. Yes. And so Lenore Ann is Martha's cousin and my I call her my sister because people used to get us confused in Greenwood, thinking that we were each other. But anyway, my dear friend and sister, Leanne, whose mother, Mama Lucy, is mentioned in the introduction of the book. Anyway, we needed to have Leanne in the book. We needed hot tamales in the book. So Martha made this Delta hot tamale balls recipe. And then in our notes and notions, we talk about if this recipe gives you a craving for tamales, we recommend ordering some online from the Texas Tamale Company, of course, or Scott's Hot Tamales in Greenville. And the Scott family, oh my gosh, Elizabeth Scott, rest in peace, the most beautiful woman with all these daughters who sit in a kitchen in Metcalf, Mississippi, making these tamales. And I love all of them. And so in the Delta, where you will find a particular style of tamale that took root in this part of the South more than a century ago, make sure to visit Joe's Whitefront Cafe on Main Street in Rosedale. And don't forget, it's BYOT. Bring your own Tupperware if you want the juice with your tamales. So anyway, all of that is to say we have a signing at Joe's Whitefront on Saturday in Rosedale. And thanks to Ann Martin for publicizing that for us.
I must say that Joe's Whitefront tamales are the perfect size tamale. You know, it's not too big. It's not too fat. It's one of those things that you can like, oh, I'll have another, please. Oh, yes, please. They're just the perfect size tamale. And the hot tamale balls are one of those things that, you know, you can go to a party and you see the same old Swedish meatball or most, God forbid, grape jelly and barbecue sauce. Well, I don't know if you see it where you live, but around here. And these are a great one to make, and you can freeze them. You can freeze them uncooked or you can freeze them cooked. So it's a great party recipe.
I'll add that at Joe's Whitefront hot tamale place in Rosedale, there is a Mississippi Blues Trail marker there about the connection between blues and hot tamales. Robert Johnson had that song there, Red Hot. And so as part of my work I did with the SFA, I helped lobby really hard for that to happen, and it happened. And there's a Mississippi Blues Trail marker in front of Joe's Whitefront, and it's the only, I think, still the only culinary marker in the state of Mississippi. Is that right? Maybe there's another one for comeback sauce in Jackson.
I think maybe the Big Apple in.
Oh yeah, okay.
Might have one.
Yes, with their Big sandwiches.
It's one of the few, but one we're certainly proud of here in the Delta.
Yes. So Elizabeth said, well done.
Also,
with our great teacher. Thank you all for being here and spending time with us. This has been long, but I hope it's been fun.
If you ride the Delta Queen riverboat, you will stop in Rosedale, so you'll have your chance to get a tamale.
And then again, our other sunny events are on the website, but we're going to be in Oxford and Jackson and Memphis coming up. So we packed,
thank you so much.
We packed a lot into this couple weeks. Yes, thank you, Cassie and Ulrika and Brazos Books in Houston, which is just a few blocks from my house, and here I am in Mississippi. But anyway, that is the beauty of technology. So thank you.
Yeah, this has been an absolute blast. I want the two of you to know how much love there is for you in the chat. I know it's hard for you to see. Vicky says she's into how these recipes have the potential to bring us into the present as far as the making, yet take us through personal history, and that your work is beautiful.
So sweet.
Got lots of little heart emojis. Michelle says this was so much fun and she wishes she was in that kitchen with you both. And just a lot of congratulations in the chat for you. I want to make sure that you heard that love.
Yes, thank you. I think Elizabeth is asking if everybody can put their cameras on. I don't know if we'll see it when you do it, but I would love it if everybody turned their cameras on real quick.
Yeah, as we get ready to go ahead, turn your cameras on, give a nice little wave. I'll just go through a couple of our end of show announcements. Just a reminder, Bookstore has some new hours. Make sure to check out our website for info. Let's see what else. The websites mentioned tonight have been put in the chat, so make sure to grab some of those before you go. And I'll stay on for a couple more moments to say your highs and goodbyes. Thank you so much.
Michelle Hicks, who probably has the largest personal collection of Amy paintings outside of my mother. Hi, Marianne Evans. Hi, Elizabeth Schatz. Dana Duterrell. Elizabeth, put your camera on. Where'd you go? I have to scroll through everybody. Did she just hang up? Oh, there she is.
She's there.
Hi, Elizabeth. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Hi.
My third grade teacher. She's magic. She was a big inspiration for me in my life, still is. And she's mentioned in the back of the book in our acknowledgments. Oh my gosh. Thank y'all for coming. Hey, Dana. Cheers to you. Oh, how fun. Thank y'all. I saw you, Leanna. Big mom. Okay. Wow. Look at all the ladies. All right. Oh, there's Elizabeth. Can I do a screenshot of that? Yes, I can, and I did. Okay. I love your earrings.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
We have to eat the rest of these green bean things because they're so good.
Yes, so we're gonna.
All right, y'all. If you need anything else, as usual, stay safe, shop local, wear your masks, read those books. We are thankful for all of you. Please order. A good meal is hard to find. We've got plenty through Brazos Bookstore. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will see you when we see you next. We hope it can be in person sometime soon.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. Thank you, Cassie. Bye.
Bye.